Thank you and welcome again to this series. For those of us who have been following through, you notice that we've been covering the history of Christianity in the Old Testament, right from the book of Genesis. And of course, we have also done a bit of this history, post-biblical era. We intend to fully embark upon the New Testament, and we want to welcome you and focus our attention beginning with the desire of all nations. 2,000 years ago, God became a member of the human race. But to give the context for this, I'd want to invite your attention to the arrangement that the Old Testament makes for this, and particularly in the book of Daniel, which gives a more universal context for the birth and time of Jesus, and its context in the redemptive history of the world, including the Gentiles. Because James, the Lord's brother, speaking of the work of Christ, points to the time when the Gentiles will receive this light, and he says, known unto the Lord from the beginning are all his works. So the book of Daniel from chapter 1 in its entirety ascends from the confined history which we've always known in the Old Testament, whose context is essentially the Old Testament. It ascends to capture the entire world. And the context is the captivity of the Jews into Babylon. So this is where the journey begins. When you read the book of Daniel chapter 2, Daniel chapter 7, Daniel chapter 8, when you read Daniel chapter 8 and chapter 9, Daniel chapter 11 to 12, it is the history of nations, world kingdoms, from the beginning, which is now at the time of Babylon, which is where the story begins, to the end of time. And it is a repetition for emphasis, and a repetition to give different bearings of truth that God intends that we know from this story. So we have the kingdoms of Babylon, Medo-Persia, Greece, and Rome highlighted and emphasized in these prophecies. Same prophecy given variously. It points to the time for the events, particularly in redemptive history, the work of Christ precisely. Daniel chapter 8 gives a prophecy which is later on explained in Daniel chapter 9 concerning the time in which Jesus would be baptized, the time in which Jesus would die, and the time or year in which he would change his ministration from the holy place to the Holy of Holies. Read alongside the Jewish feasts, as we said in the last video, it gives even the dates in which these events and more would occur. So that really gives the context, so that when Jesus came in the book of Mark chapter 1 verse 15, he says, time is fulfilled. So the time to which he's pointing is the time that is already prophesied right from the book of Daniel. So I want to welcome you in a special way as we transition to the history in the New Testament, the history of Christianity, as we have its foundation in the New Testament. This journey will continue to post-biblical era. Some of them may run parallel, but we invite you so that you appreciate the whole Christian story, so that you believe in the Bible more intelligently, more meaningfully, and so that you are better equipped to contend for the faith which was once delivered to the saints. God bless you in Jesus' name.